Good afternoon and welcome to the Respectability webinar for May 2nd, 2017. My name is Philip Polly. I am the Policy and Practices Director for Respectability, and I'm so delighted to be here with Paula and Lisa and all of you online who are joining us for this great conversation today about Project Search. If you've been following Respectability's work for any amount of time, then you know that we're big fans of Project Search. We're big fans of this cost-effective, life-changing model that is transforming the lives of young people. And we have pushed in all of our meetings with governors across the country, in our meetings with leadership in Washington, D.C., and in local communities about why this is a model that is making a transformative difference in the lives of young people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And you know, it's easy for us to say, oh, this has a 70% success rate, and it's really a wonderful program, and you should invest in it more. But it's really important for our partners in the workforce, especially, to really tease out those critical elements of Project Search that are so influential in terms of the success that it achieves. It's really important to really look at in-depth how they adapt skills training to people of varying levels of executive function, or, you know, different levels of literacy or comprehension, and it's really impactful to understand how that approach can really be very useful for serving young people with disabilities, but also thinking through how those lessons can be applied to other populations with serious barriers to employment, such as at-risk youth or people who are coming out of the school-to-prison pipeline. And so I'm so delighted to be here today, and we're going to be talking about Project Search. We're going to be talking through everything that's involved with it. And especially, we're going to talk about the role of technology and skill training, and technology is really important, and I want to share you an anecdote before I turn the mic over to Lisa and Paula. A couple weeks ago, I was in Wisconsin with touring around the state with Governor Walker, who was visiting different Project Search sites, and we got to meet all the interns at a place at the Mayo Clinic in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and there was this one young woman who was part of the program, young woman by the name of Dana, who had CP and was largely nonverbal. But she had this, I got to observe her having this great conversation with a governor through a piece of technology she had in her hands. Assistive technology facilitated communication that was just really neat to see, because she got to talk about what her job meant, she answered a couple of his questions, and it was really amazing how technology is a great leveler, especially for people with disabilities and people with a wide range of disabilities. And so, without further ado, I'm turning this presentation over to Paula Johnson and Lisa Enright from Project Search. Please take it away.
Thank you very much, Philip. This is Paula Johnson. I'm a program specialist with Project Search at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And my role is to help new programs get started. I work primarily with all of the western states. I'm actually based in Portland, Oregon, so it's still morning here for me. But I'm going to start us off today. I'm going to share some basic information about our model and then share some examples of some of the low-tech accommodations that we've utilized in some of our programs. And then Lisa Enright, who is an instructor in Dover, Delaware. She is stationed at Bayhealth, a hospital there in Dover. And Lisa has assisted Project Search with our technology sessions at our national conference every year, and is just very, very skilled in terms of teaching interns how to use technology that is enhancing their work experience and actually helping them to acquire skills that probably in a much more efficient way than you might see in some of the programs. So I'm going to start with just a quick overview. Project Search actually started over 20 years ago at Cincinnati Children's, and the director of the emergency department at the time, Erin Riley, was having difficulty with some of her high turnover positions and got the idea of employing people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And she partnered with a special education director at a local vocational technical school named Susie Rutkowski. And the two of them really started the model, never anticipating that it would be replicated across the U.S. and abroad. But since that time, there have been over 60 people employed at Cincinnati Children's, that individuals who've gone through the training program. So we currently have over 500 programs in 46 states in Canada, the UK, Ireland, the Netherlands, and most recently Bahrain. We know that the unemployment rate is still exceptionally high for this population, and the national core indicators are showing that nearly 85% of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities still do not have a paid job in their community. They may be in day activity programs, or many places across the country, they're still in sheltered workshops. This is a map of the U.S. that shows where our programs are located. So the 4 remaining states are North Dakota, Utah, Louisiana, and West Virginia. And we're working with those states to bring programs to their states. Well, the program started in healthcare. We have been successful in other large companies, and you'll see a list here. There's everything from universities, government entities. Our fastest growing segment is in the hospitality industry. We're working with many Hilton properties and seeing quite a bit of success in that area as well. We've been in different museums, zoos, and parks. We're at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., so if you're ever visiting the Smithsonian, you may see one of the interns at an information desk. The overall goal of Project Search is 100% employment for the graduates and employment in the community. We don't consider going through Project Search and then going to a work crew, a segregated work crew, as a successful outcome. So we're really looking for community-based employment. Last year, our 2015 graduate, 78% of all U.S. graduates did find employment in the community. The average hourly wage was $9.60, and the average hours worked per week were just a little under 25. 33% were hired by the host business, and that's been pretty consistent. About 30% every year are hired by the host business. Now, our host sites are not required to hire people, but we know that they oftentimes are going to be hiring people who are a good fit. The key concepts are that it is a business-led collaboration with education, rehabilitation, community providers, and long-term support agencies. And we know that it works well when these agencies can braid their funding so that the financial responsibility is not falling only on the shoulders of one of the partners. It's a total immersion model, meaning that the students start and end their day at the host site. They don't start at their school and take a bus over. They're actually utilizing public transportation to get to and from the site. And we find that this has a tremendous impact not only on the interns, but also on the host site and all of the coworkers, because they begin to develop good relationships with people and also see just how capable they are. The interns rotate through 3 different departments, and the purpose is for career exploration, because oftentimes many people haven't really had a chance to try out different kinds of jobs. And so this helps them get a better idea of what they do like, what are some of those conditions, employment conditions that are favorable. Just one quick story in terms of this career exploration. Sometimes we see that an intern has a pretty good idea of what they'd like to do. And there was a young woman who really wanted to work at her local Hallmark store, but had not been able to get an interview. She had hoped to get a summer job while she was still in school. So when she started Project Search, her 3 internships were in, the first one was in shipping and receiving, so she learned how to receive inventory coming in. Her second one was in the pharmacy, and she learned to stock shelves and put up displays. And then the third one was in the gift shop, where she learned to use the cash register and other things that would help her in gaining the employment at the local Hallmark store. And over the course of the year, her instructor had maintained contact with the manager of that store, and so at the end of the year, the manager was invited to her graduation. She did come, and she also offered her a position. So it was a really great example, I think, of how we can work with individuals and their career goals, and if they don't know, then they get to try out various different things that hopefully will lead them to their desired outcome. This gives you an idea of who the partners are in our program. So definitely we'll be working with a host business. There is always an education partner, and we have 2 different types of programs, if you will. One is a high school transition program where we're working with young adults who are in that last year of school, and Lisa she represents one of those programs. Then we have our young adult model where students have already left high school but didn't get the opportunity to train in a more rigorous setting. And in that case, we work with either a community college or an adult education program, so people are still connected to an education partner, but it's not the high school. And then we work with state vocational rehabilitation agencies, workforce investment boards, families, a community rehabilitation provider that will help with the job development process, and then the State Developmental Disabilities Agency. The program is typically a 9-month program where there are 10 to 12 interns that are a part of the program. They start and finish the program together, so it's a cohort model. The instructor and skills trainers are on site every day, all day, so and it's the same people throughout the year. We know how important that consistent staff is to the success. They're totally immersed into the host business culture, so if a department is having a staff meeting, the interns participate in those meetings. If there are any social events at the host site, then we encourage the interns to be part of that as well. They're going to rotate through 3 unpaid internships with continual feedback, not only from the staff supporting them, but also their department supervisor or mentor. And then finally, the customized job search occurs at the end of the year. But actually, it starts before the end of the year, so that hopefully by the time they finish the program, they already have their job. This is a typical day. The first hour of the day is spent in a classroom setting where they're learning different employability skills, and then they'll go out to their various internship sites. It's 1 intern per department. We don't recommend grouping people, so it's just one student per department. At the end of the day, they come back and debrief. This gives you an idea of the topics in our employability skills curriculum. And all of our sites have access to the curriculum as well as activities and lesson plans. When we're looking for internships, we're looking for not the easiest jobs, but complex and systematic. So the photo that you see here is a woman named Jill, and she works in the sterile processing department. She is putting surgical kits together, and so this can be a very complex job. Some of the kits are upwards of 150 instruments, and so it can become very complicated. Here are some examples of some of the hospital internships that we have. So you see there's a wide variety of different departments, and oftentimes people with intellectual and developmental disabilities have not had access to these kinds of jobs, and I think a lot of it has to do with low expectations. People assume that they may not be able to work in some of the various departments, but we know with accommodations and technology, people can be very successful. I wanted to share just some of the what I would consider our low-tech accommodations. So this is a young woman who has a binder that is really designed to help her more with the social aspects of work. So the picture, the booklet that she's holding, there's a picture of her with one of her coworkers, and this helps her identify who she should go to if she needs assistance and her skills trainer is not readily available, because we're trying to build in as much independence as possible. So she has learned how to use this binder to help her with multiple aspects of her job, social as well as some of the physical demands. This is an example of an intern who is nonverbal, and he works, this particular internship was in a clinic area, in the waiting area, and many people might assume, well, there's no way he could work in this area if he doesn't speak, but actually just some very simple little accommodations were made. When someone comes into the area, he hands them a card that says, please have a seat, and someone will be with you shortly. And then he has another card that he takes to someone in the office, and it states that someone needs assistance at the front window. So very simple accommodation, but totally opened up his world. Materials management and stocking is a huge part of every hospital I've ever visited, and this is an example of someone who is in the receiving area, and some of the accommodations that we have used as a variety of pictures and icons. In this particular instance, someone was stocking supplies in the kitchens on all of the patient floors, and she was not a strong reader, so the skills trainers put a series of photographs up so it would help her find the items that she was looking for. And after she finished her internship in this department, the manager asked if they could please leave those photos because it was helpful for everybody. And he had employees who were English was not their first language, so for them it was very helpful as well. This is an example of how if someone has a job that requires accuracy in terms of par levels or the correct number of an item, oftentimes counting boards or templates can be used. This is Gretchen, and what she is doing, she's bagging baby bottles and baby bottle nipples, and they have to be bundled in groups of 20. Now, Gretchen can count to 20, but in this particular area, it's very busy. She was constantly getting interrupted. It would lose her count, just like any of us would. And so they came up with a simple template where she places the 20 baby bottle nipples and then bags them. So her accuracy and her efficiency is just exceptional. This is Annie, a dental clinic technician. What she's doing here is she is sorting out the dental instruments. They've gone through an initial wash. She's separating them by the type of instrument, and then she'll put them in the peel packs for sterilization. One of the things that Annie was having difficulty with was finding her locker and using a combination lock. So in some instances, people might think, well, how can she do this complex dental clinic job if she's having difficulty with this? But very simple solution. This is a laser lock, and all she needs to do is push the white button to open the lock, so she'll carry that little fob with her, and then when she gets back to the locker room, just has to push the button. It's interesting because now if you visit that locker room, you'll see lots of laser locks because it's easier for everybody. In sterile processing, again, those surgical kits can be quite complex. This is an example of how Jill learned her job. It was through a series of photographs. And I'll give you an idea of what it looked like before. So the photo on the left is what's called a pick list, and the other employees in that department had to read through a list of the type of instrument, which in my opinion would be really difficult. So the skills trainer put together these books of photographs for Jill to learn her job. They were in 3-ring binders, so she even would take them home at night and study. And the manager in this department asked the skills trainer, could you please make a book for all of our trays, because again, it's easier for everyone. This is an example of how someone learned their job. It's the job required cleaning and inspecting the incubators. And so there are about 40 removable parts on the incubator. They all have to be taken apart, cleaned, sanitized, and then put back together. And so again, a series of photographs on the wall is how this young woman learned her job. And then we oftentimes have interns who have visual impairments. This is an example of a woman who is using a very simple device. It's a handheld screen reader that she can place over the computer screen to enlarge the font. What her job is, she is auditing what the computer says is in the machine. It's a Pyxis machine that has medications and different supplies. And excuse me, actually this one is, this picture is just a supply machine. So she'll do a physical count of what's in the machine, compare it to what's in the computer. There are a variety of different jobs. This is a MRI prep area. And this person is taking care of the room in between patients, and learned his job through just a series of matching to sample. He was trained to follow the directions that, again, were in just a simple picture checklist. We have several positions in pharmacies, and this person is using a handheld device that he's scanning in product that's coming into the pharmacy. We also have many students who are working in the IT departments, and this person is doing a computer refresh. So that covers my portion. If you have any questions for me, my email address is listed there, and this PowerPoint presentation will also be available for you to download. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa now, and she is going to share more information about how she uses technology in her classroom and at the job sites.
Hi everybody, my name is Lisa Enright, and I am an instructor at Project Search at Bayhealth in Dover, Delaware. So I'm going to be talking about technology in the classroom and on the job. Before I get started, I just wanted to share some pictures of my interns using technology. So I'm just going to zoom in here, and this first picture in the upper left-hand corner is an intern. Her name is Deja, and she utilizes, in this picture, she's using a laptop, and what she's doing is she's toggling between 2 different programs, Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. And she is copying data from a Word document, and she created a database in Excel and pasted that information in there. So she's really come a long way as well. She also created a database in Excel and then used mail merge in Word to make our labels for all of our graduation invitations. So on the right, you can see that is Ashley, and she is using an iPad, and then that's a pad pillow that you can get. That particular one is from a company called iPivo, which is a great company that has a variety of different accessories that you can use, and they have some inexpensive technologies. So Ashley is using the calculator app in this particular picture, but she also uses a checkbook app to record her deposits and withdrawals. We do financial literacy through our local credit union here, Del One is the name. And then she uses Del One's online banking app to reconcile her account on a monthly basis. Now, the interns also will log on using the laptop, and they'll print a statement for the month as well. So down here in the lower left is Wayne and Daniel, and they created a Prezi presentation, and they were, talking about their experience throughout the year. We had United States Senator Carper visit us last year, and they created a presentation, then they hooked it up, and that's our smart board, and they presented that to the senator. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see Malik is using a desktop computer, and he's using Microsoft Word to create, edit, and print his resume from a template. And then he'll upload that completed document to Google Drive. And what we do is we create a folder on Google Drive and title it Career Portfolio. And then the interns share that folder with all of us, the instructors, coaches, developers, and vocational rehab. So that way everyone has electronic versions of everything, and it's very easy to get information that you may need. So I am going to go ahead and get started on technology in the classroom and on the job. So in this example, I have this, the link here for, this is a Live Finder is the name of the site that I use, and inside of it you'll see, if you go to that link there, there are 3 tabs, Interviewing 101, and there are 4 videos that the interns use. So the top 4 questions that everyone is asked during an interview are, tell me a little bit about yourself, what is one of your strengths, what is one of your weaknesses, and then why should we hire you? So they have these video examples, they watch those, and you'll see that that is in the Live Finder for your use. And once they do that, they actually create the they create a video by using their iPad. So they turn it around and they answer the questions. They turn the camera around so it's facing them, and they answer the question, and then they upload that to our online classroom. We utilize Schoology, and then I have a chance to review it and critique it. And then they also do self-evaluations. So you'll see the scoring rubrics are also included in the Live Binder that they use. And from that, they're able to pick up little things like, for example, I had an intern say, I really have to stop rocking back and forth. So she didn't realize that she was doing that when she was answering her questions, but once she watched the video again, she was able to see that. And that's very helpful that they're able to actually pick that up on their own without having to be, have it pointed out. They're able to see it and reflect on their performance. The last part of the binder is career portfolio templates that you are free to use inside of Google Drive. So all of that is available to you, and I encourage you to use it. So I'm going to just go through the examples of what we, that's a screenshot of what the binder looks like if you actually click on the link. And then you'll also see this like template here that helps the interns answer their questions. So in those videos that are from YouTube, when you talk about, tell me a little bit about yourself, you want to reflect upon and keep it professional and talk about your education, your experience, and the skills. So the next one is one of your strengths. So the students, we talk about what different types of strengths that they have and then what advantage that will have for the company and then how it would benefit the employer. So we practice these and, you know, at first they sound very scripted, but once they start practicing and utilizing the video modeling and, you know, working with partners and things like that, they get very fluent in their answers. And we've had really good success utilizing this method. The next one is weaknesses. So in this one, we talked to the interns about waging war on your weaknesses. So identify the weakness and then discuss what action you have taken to help yourself to overcome that weakness. And then because of that action that you took, what was the positive result? So essentially, you're going to take that weakness and formulate the answer in such a way that it's going to really become a strength. So I want you to take a look at Caitlin's October response. So when we first started this, she watched the video, and then on our online classroom, she needed to respond and tell her classmates what one of her weaknesses were. And so I'm going to show you her October response, and then keep in mind that we continue to practice, we continue to have them answer questions using the video and uploading them and sharing them. They continue critiquing themselves. We do an activity called speed interviewing. It's like speed dating, but we have 5 employers from the community come in, and they have to answer those 4 questions, and they move around in a group. So by the end of it, the interns have had 5 interviews, and it's about, I think it's about 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that, and then they get 2 minutes for feedback. And it's been very, very helpful for our interns. This year we also did a reverse job fair where we invited the companies to come in, and then the interns had presentation boards and their career portfolios were completed, and they had to sell themselves rather than the other way around. So it's really helped with our interns to be able to feel comfortable answering questions. And so I want you to keep that in mind when you look at, after that extra time spent, her February response. So we're going to look at those 2 videos right now. So this one is October.
One of my weaknesses is carrying things that are too heavy for me to carry by myself.
Okay, so you can see she missed a couple parts of that answer. It wasn't as complete as we would like it to be. And then after practice and using the technology to be able to evaluate herself, we will look at the difference in February.
For my weakness is lifting the heavy boxes, so I will need help from my supervisors and my coworkers. As a result, I will do better at carrying heavy boxes and other stuff that are heavy.
Okay, so you can see that the answer became, sorry, I'm sorry about that. The answer became lengthier, and she had a little bit more detail. to that, and she's gotten even better. So we're really excited about her progress. So the last one that the interns would discuss is why should we hire you? So in this one, they want to talk about, they want to review their strengths and then align those strengths with the job description and how that would set them apart from others. And then the last part of that is what benefit will their strengths bring to the company. So when we do our interviewing and when we do the speed interviewing or the interviewing with our host business, and even in practice, we have a rubric that we use. And this is good because it stays consistent throughout the year, and interns know exactly what they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to be answering. And I utilize this website called Rubistar, and anything that I'm talking about, everything is free to use. So you can go on this website and you can create your own rubrics very easily. You can define each of the categories and what it would take to get a 4-3-2-1. And then you can go back on and analyze the data. So this is what the rubric looks like once it's finished. I know that's kind of hard to see there, but again, it goes from 4-3-2-1. We look at, initial contact and first impressions, eye contact, and then each of those questions. Now, this defines each of those sections. So for the tell me a little bit about yourself, to get a 4, the intern has to include their education, their experience, and their skills. And this is just the second page of it, just continues on. So then the last part that we have them evaluate is like their politeness, whether they shook hands at the beginning, the end, and then their voice and their tone. So that's one thing that we've had to work with, and that's another thing that the video modeling helps with, is that they can hear whether they are keeping their tone of voice and projecting so that everyone can understand what they're saying. The next part that's included in that binder is that Google Drive, the career portfolio. So included in this portion of it, you will have access to a sample resume, business cards, a cover letter, and there's also, I included in there a sample budget template that we use. That's been very helpful for our interns, and so all of that's included. You just need to copy it to your own Google account, and then you'll have access to all of that. And feel free to use that. Also included in that, which is right here in the upper left, it's the first one, is the document to be able to, separate your answers or to describe yourself, and for the students to reflect on what would they include for their education, what would they include for their experience and their skills. So that graphic organizer is also included in that career portfolio. And this is just a summary of the tech tools that I used in that one live binder, just to give you an idea that when we're talking about using technology, that things aren't used in isolation. It's not just one tool that you use. You really want to bring everything together. So the live binders is a great way to organize online content, or you can actually upload content into it. So that's another thing that I utilize it for, is our host business. It's a great way to share information with management and job coaches and any of the staff here. I put all the department profiles for each of the internship sites in a live binder, and contact information, newsletters, videos, anything like that, it can all be included on this site. Next, I used YouTube for the videos, and it helps students to be able to visualize what they're supposed to do or say. And I recommend using your Google account for YouTube, Google Docs, Google Drive, and you can also use it for the last one there, that's Bitly. But the next was the Rubistar, and you, like I said, you would create the rubrics quickly and easily, and then also you can evaluate individual and class data on that site. And it makes it pulls the information in nicely. I usually then put it into Excel for just to make the charts look a little bit better. Next, we used Google Docs to create and share and collaborate on documents very quickly. Just today, I utilized the Google Drive. I had taken an intern to meet with somebody about a potential position, and I realized that I hadn't told her previously to do a cover letter. Well, we have a sample cover letter in their career portfolio, so all I had to do was go into Google Drive, click on Shared with Me, then click on her career portfolio. Then I saw her cover letter there, just opened that up, and all I had to do was change the names and a little bit of details to tailor it to that position and print it off. And so that was ready to go for her. So it's a really great way to just have those documents right there for you. And, you know, instead of having to type up a whole cover letter, that took me about 3 minutes. So, like I was saying about the Google Drive, you can store files, videos, pictures, and documents that you can very easily share with anyone who's added to it. And if something happens or somebody leaves or someone new comes on, you can add and take away those permissions really easily. The last thing that I utilized was Bitly, which is a site that takes really long URLs from your website, and then you can customize them so they're not as long and they're personalized. You can also then watch and see how much traffic that you have going to a certain URL, or if you do something like a survey or pictures and you want to know how many people are going to see that, you can see through Bitly, it'll tell you how many people have visited. Now, with that one, I would recommend either using Twitter or Facebook, since most of the time when you're sharing that kind of information, you're doing so through a social media content. The last thing in the presentation are some other helpful resources, and they're all through LiveBinder. So you can go to the, if you, on this site here, if you look up in the, kind of up in the right-hand corner over a little bit, it says Show My Media Library. Under there, this presentation is available for you to download, and these links will then be active, that you can easily click on them. And the first one is Effective Job Development, and that's actually a LiveBinder that I created from a presentation that Paula did at the national conference over the summer. The next one is a LiveBinder on iPad resources, so a variety of apps that can be utilized for people with disabilities. And then the last one that I included is a Welcome to the Twitterverse LiveBinder, which, you know, a lot of people don't understand Twitter, or they want to use it, or they've heard a couple things, but they really aren't sure what to do. This LiveBinder has a bunch of resources in it that you can use to facilitate, you know, becoming part of a chat that you might like to do, or just to get information and how to follow different people. It's been really great for us on Twitter. You know, I would send pictures out of our interns of the month, and what I do here at Project Search at Bayhealth is to make our banking and the financial literacy piece more real for our interns, I actually use real money. So I used to, if somebody got intern of the month the first year, I would give them like a gift card or something like that. Well, I decided last year that I would give them $15, and they could then put that into their savings account. So I would tweet that out, that they got a bonus of $15. And Del One actually saw that on Twitter, and they reached out to me and they said, you know, we love what you're doing with that, and we want to match that $15 every month. And that came just from Twitter. So now if you're intern of the month here at Project Search at Bayhealth, you're getting $15 from me, and then Del One is matching that $15. So you're getting a $30 bonus for being intern of the month. So it's been a good incentive for the students, and it's been a great way to teach the students the value of money and have it in a real context. The last slide is my contact information. I know that's kind of hard to see. I apologize. If you download it there, you'll be able to see it just fine. And it includes my email, my personal Twitter, and then our Project Search at Bayhealth Twitter. And then you can follow us on Facebook, and then also our website. That's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. That was very...
Absolutely.
I knew you guys would provide a lot of great information. I think that you also provided all of us some really great resources. I know for a fact that I'm going to take those videos about interviewing and such and send them over to our fellowship director for use with our students who, you know, oftentimes encounter challenges with the interview process as well. So thank you. That was really wonderful. So now we have some time blocked off to do a question and answer session with Lisa and Paula and myself. For those of you in the audience or online or listening by phone, we're actually going to be using the chat box today to facilitate our Q&A rather than dialing in by phone. So on the bottom left of the screen, there'll be a box that says Q&A. You can just type in that, or yeah, actually you can do that. You can also use the chat box, which is in the upper left, to type it in directly, and I'll read out the question for everyone to share. I know that we had a quick question from somebody who was asking about who is operating Project Search in Wyoming. Paula, is that something you can answer for us?
Yes, I did type the answer, but I didn't see it pop up. The program is in Laramie, and it is at Ivinson Memorial Hospital. The local school district coordinates that program.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So if any of you out there have questions, please use the chat box. Just type up the question, and I'll be happy to read it to everyone. So for, I guess kind of the big question, we saw some, and this is for both Lisa and Paula, we saw a lot of great tools being used that you both created, that people in Project Search sites have created, such as that binder with all the information so that the one person can help work through their social skills. But we also saw things like screen readers. So I'm wondering, in terms of assistive technology and Project Search sites, who usually pays for those devices, or how do they provide them to the students?
Typically, one of our partners, Voc Rehab, will provide the assistive technology. So we encourage all of the interns to apply for Voc Rehab services so that they are able to access that service. I know that with students who are blind or visually impaired, oftentimes it's the services for the blind in many states that have provided those accommodations.
Wonderful. Thank you. Oh, yes, Paula?
Oh, this is Lisa. Sorry. I was just going to say, at Project Search at Bayhealth, our interns, at the beginning of each year, Capital School District, Kent County Community School, purchases an iPad and a cover for every intern. And in the last 2 years, they've been gifted those at graduation.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. We've been very fortunate, so
gotcha.
It's a good thing because we utilize them also for like calendar invites. So if an intern has a request off or they have an appointment, they're expected to put that in the calendar and send the invite to us. If they have a meeting scheduled, I will, make a calendar invite and send it to them, then they need to accept it. So they've been very good about utilizing it for different things other than, like I said, the video modeling, the calendar. We have a variety of apps that are based on what our interns need to be working on, and then also our online classroom.
Gotcha. Thank you. Well, I want to ask another question before I double check and see if we have anybody typing a question in the chat box. Just right there in the middle there, just type away your question. I'll be happy to read it out to everyone. But as you can see, I flipped us back to the picture of the sterilization process in that hospital setting where you have the Project Search intern who's following the flip book, which kind of clearly outlines visually what steps he's supposed to do and how to do it. And I'm really curious, how do you think that other programs that serve other types of people with other types of barriers to employment, whether we're talking about returning citizens or people with limited literacy skills or at-risk youth, I'm curious, can you kind of explain for those who may not be so familiar why that type of visualization could be so useful for people across a wide range of abilities?
Sure. Well, I'll start, and Lisa, please add anything you have too. Well, research shows us that we all learn more quickly through pictures, photographs, icons than we do written words. And so it's particularly helpful for people who are not strong readers, but also for individuals with traumatic brain injury or any kind of processing disorders. So we find that pictures and icons are tremendously helpful. And again, many departments have asked that those photographs stay because it is helpful for all of their employees.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right, so we have a doozy of a question from Dr. Lori Timmons, and I'm glad we have an audience who isn't afraid to ask big, exciting questions. And her question, I don't know if we have the time to answer it fully, but here we go. Can you describe what it is like to start a new Project Search site? What challenges do you face, in particular, developing partnerships with different folks, such as VR, job host, etc.?
Well, we have a pretty well thought out process where we will work with a local community. Typically it is either a school district or it might be, it could be Voc Rehab that's interested in starting. And so we provide information that helps explain the model as they're getting started, and then whoever is sort of leading the charge we'll start inviting various partners to exploratory meetings to find out what their level of interest is. Once everyone is in agreement that they'd like to get started and they've identified a potential host site, we can also help with any presentations or provide additional information for the team to present to the host site. There is a licensing process, and the license for a Project Search program is through Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and so one of the team members, one of the partners, must sign the license, and then that gives access to all of your partners to all of our copyrighted materials, our curriculum, the resource guide. We have online training, and just a whole host of resources. We know that it typically takes anywhere from 6 to 10 months to get a program started. So let's say if you wanted to start a program for the fall of 2018, it would be good to get started by at least by January of 2018.
Gotcha. Wonderful. And I know that sometimes there's complications that are involved in terms of who's going to pay for what, but it really speaks to the profound role that a committed group of activists and educators and leaders can have in terms of expanding Project Search. And I know that there's, from our own experience, there's an important role for people at the state level, such as governors, to become champions of the issue. And it's very important that coordination and collaborations occur. All right, I'm going to do a last call on questions from the audience. Just type it away in the chat box or the Q&A box, and I'll be happy to answer anything. So I guess another way of looking at it is, what would it take, Lisa or Paula, for states that already have maybe 2 or 3 sites to really step up their game and expand to maybe 5 or 6 sites?
Well, we encourage states to have quarterly meetings where they can invite representatives from the various agencies to come and learn more about the programs. We also encourage them to share their outcome data, because we know that the employment outcome data that we're seeing nationally is it just continues to get better every year, and I think it's a matter of spreading the word about the successful employment outcomes, and it really comes down to just, I think, spreading the word.
Gotcha. All right. Well, seeing no further questions, I'm going to wrap up our website.
I think there's one more question.
What do we got? Excellent. Jonathan Phillip asks, what resources are available that educate or help reach out to employers?
Project Search has, I guess we would call it our overview, that we would be happy to share with you. And then there are also some videos that we recommend that you share with potential businesses. If it's in a healthcare setting, and if it's in a state where we have other programs, oftentimes the leadership at various host sites are willing to talk to the leadership of other employers. So you can always contact me for more information, and I'd be happy to share that overview document.
Gotcha. And I think it's not Project Search related necessarily, but I think a great example of that type of employer-driven messaging around employment for people with disabilities comes from South Dakota and their Ability for Hire campaign. It's a great communications and media effort to showcase talented people who happen to have disabilities successfully integrating into the workplace and being really a value added for their employers. And thank you so much for joining us to talk today about Project Search and the best practices that they offer in terms of skill training. We're going to be talking about another program that we absolutely love and want to see expand and grow and serve ever more people every year. And next week, we're going to be talking about Best Buddies, specifically Best Buddies International's Jobs Program. I hope all of you who are here today can join us for a webinar on Friday, May 12th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to be talking about how friendship and skills lead to success. We're going to be joined by Jessica Patton and Andrea Schonenberg to talk about their jobs program and kind of go through and talk through how they train people, how they integrate friendships and development of soft skills and social skills as part of the drive for employment success. And I'm especially excited to announce that on our Friday webinar, we're actually going to be joined by a former Best Buddies Jobs Program participant who is a wonderful self-advocate. She's going to talk about her experiences and why friendships and skills training made the difference for her achieving her dreams. So go to Respectability's website, RSVP for that webinar, and then we have a lot more programs coming in the months ahead. Thank you so much for joining us today, and that will be all. Have a great day.